One.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is John Townsend. You're on the Dr. Townsend Live program. We're here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 Pacific time on all the channels that you guys are on right now, from LinkedIn to YouTube Live to Twitter Live, Facebook Live, and some other lives. And what this is, it's a call-in show where we talk about struggles and problems, this sort of thing, in the areas of relationships, all kinds of relationships, marriage, dating, kids, parents, co-workers. So the relationship part, because relationships are complicated. Or in the personal area, suppose I've got feelings that are destructive, or not destructive, feelings that are disturbing, or behaviors that aren't working right. I have some behaviors that aren't working like they should. That's the personal aspect. And then the performance part, which is leadership, business, work, career, teams, and that sort of thing. The 3 Ps, as I like to say, the people part, the personal part, and the performance part. And we talk about them. We try to give a good solution, not just ramble forever and make you just kind of like get lost. We want to help you in a way that both is practical and doable, but also goes deeper into the heart of the matter where we really solve it. So I'm glad to be here, and you can either come on your voice on live, or you can answer the question. We sure prefer the live because it's more immediacy. But our great producer, Stacy's here, and she'll tell you about all that. Stacy, hey.
Hey there, John. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live Show, everybody. We are glad that you are here with us today, and we are excited to spend this hour with you helping. And John has already covered all of the previous stuff, but I'm going to give you the phone number again in case you don't have that. The number to dial into the show is 1-877-853-5257. Again, that number is 1-877-853-5257. Once you dial the number, you're going to enter a meeting ID, which will put you into the waiting room. And that meeting ID number is 876-5437-2012. Again, meeting ID 876-5437-2012. And without further ado, let's get started.
So I was going to do some more ados, guys, but Stacey said there's no further ado. So we're going to do a one ado show. That was our only ado for the whole hour. Thank you, Stacey, and we'll do something.
You're welcome. Caller, you are live on the Dr. Townsend Live Show. Go ahead and tell Dr. Townsend your first name and where you're calling us from. Caller, are you with us?
It's an iPad.
Okay. If you are caller, if you're on your iPad and you're with us, you are live with Dr. Townsend. You can go ahead with your first name and tell us where you're calling from. Oh, let's see. They're muted. All right. That's the problem. Oh, okay. Well, we will move on to the next. Maybe there's some technical difficulties, and feel free to call us back on the show and move on to the next. Okay. Caller, you are live on the Dr. Townsend Live Show. Go ahead with your first name and tell us where you're calling from.
My name's Ariel. I'm calling from Winthrop, Minnesota.
Hi, Ariel. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
So, what's your question today?
Well, I had seen what you kind of posted about safety deficits, and I read it, and there was way too much that was me, and I'm wondering how I can fix that.
Let me see if I got it. You read the email that we send out, and we talked about safety deficits when a relationship is not a safe one, and we listed some things. And it sounds like you said you have a current relationship that's not very safe at all, and you want to know what to do about it. Do I have that right?
Well, like the statements had said, like, do you often feel that God's the only one there for you, and you don't have other people to go to in your life? And yeah, I don't at work.
Okay,
I don't in my family.
so it's not that you got some. It's not you got everybody. It's not okay. I've got a really crazy relationship. It's like I don't think I have any good relationships, and I want to know what to do about it because I'm sure you feel lonely and alone. Is that more it?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry to hear that. loneliness is like the worst thing we can feel. And as God made us for relationship, it's awful. So we'll try to help you.
Thank you.
When you read that, how did you figure out that you have those? What kind of resonated when you read the list of the deficits?
I just remember reading the statements, and it's like, yeah, I feel like I voice my no's at work and they're not respected. I grew up with family that was narcissists, and your guys' boundaries book helped me a lot in that, but I had to move away so that I could heal. And I've tried to reconcile, but that I haven't had any, they haven't contacted me to work on that. My husband has an emotional disorder where he pushes people away that are close to him. Yeah.
What's his diagnosis?
Schizoid.
You said if your husband has an emotional disorder. I'm trying to get the data here. What is his diagnosis?
Schizoid.
Oh, he's an avoidant?
It's SCHIZOID.
I'm sorry, we have a thing. Yeah, schizoid. I understand. Withdrawals, shuts down, this sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what's your support group look like? Do you have a support group?
God.
Well, yeah, God's really important. So you don't have like 3 other gals in your life that hear you how hard it is for you and love you, want to do things with you, want to hear, not try to give you advice, not want to control you, but just listen to you and be there for you and care about you. They're not in your context.
I don't have any friends.
Okay. You sound like a nice person to me, and Montana's a great state. So why would you not have friends? Why did that not happen for you?
I don't know. That's kind of the question I've had. I try to politely bring up issues that I have. Like, we've tried to join churches, and if I say, well, I kind of disagree with that according to this passage in the Bible, and immediately I get told that I'm being mean and that I shouldn't say stuff like that because it could hurt people's feelings, and then we're not really talked to.
Okay. So what you're saying is that let's look at it this way. God meant for you to have safe people. You're reading the book, but that when you go fishing for nice people, when you go fishing, something happens in the pond you're fishing in, and you get out crazy or unloving people.
Yeah, I think I've fallen for the love bombing stage too much.
You fall into the what stage?
The love bombing stage, and then later get
love bombing stage.
Yeah.
Where you mean where you kind of overdo it?
Yeah, I probably overly trust people at first, and then get hurt.
Okay. Ariel, it's unfortunately your problem is a lot of people struggle the way you do. And if you were to tell me, look, I've got a skin thing and I got zits and everything on my face, I can't stop. And I'd say, what are you doing about it? And you said, well, I went to this one doctor and this one skin support group, and they were both awful. And so maybe I'm cursed for life. I would say, I think we need a specialized group that works on people to help them in a laboratory to fix their skin. The right doctor and the right support environment, a laboratory to say, let's don't go out in the real world right now because a person's skin is too fragile and not ready. And let's learn what can work in the laboratory. And so I would suggest, have you ever been in therapy?
Yes, I went to a counselor here, and
now don't tell me that therapy rejected you too. I'm going to be so sad.
Well, I mean, he helped me with the narcissism from my family and helped me figure out that it was somewhat spiritual abuse, which led me to other books, which helped me in my healing and gave me a very tighter relationship with God. And I'm very thankful for that. But now that he's working with my husband, the questions seem to be pointed at me that why don't you just take whatever he gives you?
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
Okay,
I don't know what's going on.
you've kind of lost a safe place there, right?
Yeah.
All right. I have two suggestions for you. One would be, I hate to second guess any other therapist because people have second guessed me that have never met the person that's awful. But I give you an impression is that when we're going to see somebody individually, then we say let's bring the spouse in. It's really a tough. I mean, if you have to do it for money reasons or there's nobody else good in the area, I get it. But what happens is the person felt like I got my safe place, and then the spouse comes in and says, "Oh, and here's some bad things going on about you. Maybe not even telling the truth." And all of a sudden, the therapist is like, "Well, I'm in between you two." So I don't highly recommend doing that. I recommend, hey, get yours, get his, and get ours. You know, mine, his, and ours. If you can do that, that's the way it should be. But if there's no other option because of time and money, I get it. But I would say to him, I'm struggling with this because it feels like you've lost my point of view. And I would tell him that and try to work that out. Having said that, though, there is a case for two other options for you. One is to say, I can't stand it, it's killing me. I don't feel anything good except for that you like my husband and he doesn't move toward me. You know, if you're willing to take advice, if you really take feedback, you know, every good client should take feedback. If you're willing to say, yeah, there's a beam in my eye, there's some things I've done wrong. You can take that, but it's still an onslaught of this bad stuff. I would say it's not working. I do take feedback, but this is so, how would I phrase it? This is so biased, and probably nobody's doing this on purpose. I need to find a new individual therapist so we can do our thing in here. That's one. The other is to also, I would get in a dedicated group of people that are trying to heal their brokenness. Like it can be a therapy group. It can be a really good support group at a church that's, you know, not uber preachy, but really goes into the process. Because that becomes that laboratory I was talking about, where you begin to open up and you're around kind people, and they're trying to open up, and everybody kind of heals each other. It's like that passage in Ephesians where it says the body builds itself up in love. And a healthy group that comes from a healthy church can work miracles. So that's what I got for you. And I hope things go well for you, Ariel. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
So hard when the pond you're in isn't a great pond, but even more when somebody already has trouble in relationships and it's hard to open up and be known. And then you bring the spouse in and it's kind of like, wait a minute, it's a big adjustment. It's a big problem. I feel bad for her.
Absolutely, it is. John, I'm not sure if you wanted to get back to your adieus or not, but if not, I have another question for you from someone who has written in.
Go to the question.
Okay. We're going to call her Betty and keep her name private. She says, I'm listening to your awesome book, People Fuel, for the second time. I've recently started listening to your Wednesday show and I love it. Can you please do a show or at least help with my question on introverts and how to integrate People Fuel into it? I personally struggle as an introvert, having any sort of network around me. I've raised a teenager who is also now an introvert and does not want to go to youth group or engage with anyone outside of school. I struggle with forcing a solution and letting him have his own life. What can I do?
Well, I get it. I mean, it's an issue. And I'm just going to answer one question, Betty. I'll answer the person because that's about you. And you can generalize what I tell you to your son. Okay. Introversion is not a pathology. It's not a disorder. It's a style. Like some people get more energy, to feel good and feel like you get life done. That they need more of alone time to get more energy. But the research says introverts and extroverts, they both need alone time. Even super extroverts still need alone time. They just need less. There's more of a battery charge from the world, the relationships, less of a battery charge. And so if you've identified yourself as having that style, that is not a problem. It's just a thing. Now, if you said I have a detachment disorder, if you said I don't have any need, or I'm afraid of getting close to people, that'd be a different issue. But you didn't say that. You said I'm an introvert. Okay, I need a lot of cave time and not as much relationship time. So that being the case, you do need that. You do need some amount of relationship time, but not as much as the extrovert. But it's not a no. It's not a you don't need any time. So what it means is you determine how much relationship time you need. If you read the book People Feel, I'll give some suggestions about that, about how much you look at it. You determine how much people time you need of intimate, vulnerable, growth producing, grace and truth, processing kind of conversations with safe people and a life team and whoever's in your life. Those 3 to 10 people. An introvert might only want 1 or 2, that's fine. But you judge if it's enough by a few things. You judge it, number one, by your functioning level. If you find that you reach out to a couple people and all of a sudden you're feeling life, you're feeling love, you feel like you belong. These are all things God meant you to feel. We're judging it by the fruit of the function. How is life going? I feel energy. I feel positive. I feel hope. Then you've got enough. If you feel like you're getting like smashed in your face by too many people, that's not going to help you work and love and do all those things in life. That's too many. But if you're seeing none, you will not be functioning well. That means you're not just an introvert. You mean you probably have a disorder. So what I would do, I would just add 1 and say, I want to talk about life. And, I take you through the process of how to find those people. You know the book, you read it twice. And slowly go into that. And then judge your functioning by the life-giving relationships you have with this person. And you don't have to spend your whole life talking to these people. You've got work to do. You've got a kid. I'm sure you work and self-care and spiritual growth. But just do it 1 or 2 at a time until you go, I feel better. Betty, I do not want you to think, and I hope I didn't convey this in the book, that you do this just kind of like you're supposed to. This is not like some take your medicine because you're supposed to. It's supposed to make you better. And so more relationships at some level, maybe not too many, more relationships should make you function better, love better, feel better. Hope that helps.
That's excellent explanation, John. Your next question, I'm getting if anybody is experiencing technical difficulties from calling in on the 800 number, they are working on it. It seems like there's a little bug going on right now, those silly gremlins. But we will continue on with the callers who are writing in on the different platforms. So this one comes from Carrie, John, and she's in Nebraska. And she says, a few months back, I was listening to your show and a man came on about his wife wanting to have an open relationship. At that point,
I remember that one. Yeah.
She says, at that point in time, I had suspicions that my husband was wanting to do this because he continues to try to take us places that are not good for couples to be at. And he seems to be becoming a little bit more flirty. Long story short, I recently found out that he is already in an open relationship with 2 other couples. It has been for the last 2 years. The information came to me by way of a friend who saw him getting into a vehicle and snapped a photo of him and sent it to me. We have 3 small children, ages 3, 6, and 9. I am trying to decide if I should leave the house immediately, ask for a divorce immediately, or enter into counseling. I really am at my wit's end and I do not know what to do. Please help.
I'm so sorry. I'm sure your heart is broken and you're feeling confused and upside down, and your whole world, I'm sure, is feeling shattered. So sorry. When we're faced with a bad situation in a relationship, we always look at the options. And I never tell people, unless their life's in danger, go to the extremely most intensive option, which divorce. Let's see an attorney tomorrow. Because the Bible talks about an escalation of the way that we approach difficult relationships. For example, in Matthew 18, it says, if your brother sins against you, well, your husband has certainly sinned against you, go to him. And if you repent, you want him. It says, if he doesn't, then you bring 2 or 3. Then it says to go to the whole church. And then in Corinthians, Paul says, you might excommunicate him, and there's some shaking up of the sandals. I'm metaphorizing some passage, but the idea is that there's an increasing level of severity and intensity to get the person's attention to see if they'll repent. I have not heard you say that you've told him or that you know or anything like that, so I'll assume you have not. And so the first thing I would do is I would sit down with him and say, I know, and here's why I know. And my leaning is to say, you need to move out and we need to be in counseling, or I need to be in counseling with you. And that's the only way I'll stay married to you, is you can move out for this time. You're actively having an affair on me. So you're out, or I need you to leave. And there needs to be very quick counseling about this. Now, once you've done that, you haven't divorced, you haven't gotten an attorney, you haven't done anything, you just said, here are my 2 non-negotiables, because you have violated the entire relationship. What happens then is going to depend on your husband's behavior. One is he goes, I did it. I am so sorry. I don't know if he'll ever forgive me. I want to see somebody 3 times a week. I'll go to a hospital. I'll do anything to get clean of this. And please, please, please give me another chance. Okay, very good sign. But if you've got, well, you know, you're not a great wife and you never did the swinging with me and this sort of thing, so maybe not, then you hold those limits. And then if he says, I like what I'm doing, then you make the appeal for counseling again. I mean, God appeals to us lots of times in the Bible before he, goes to the ultimate. And make the appeal again. Then finally you say, if there's no counseling and you don't move out, then I'll have to have a separation from you. And then you get the attorney. So that's how it works. So I would not start with divorce. I would start with those 2 conditions for the severity of what you're going through. And I hope it gets better. It's really sad.
Absolutely. That's a hard spot to be in, for sure.
It's hard as
3
coast.
small children,
Yes.
Okay, next question. It looks like everybody, if you're having problems, I believe the lines are cleared. Let me give you the number one more time to call in and ask Dr. Townsend your questions. The number is 1-877-853-5257, 1-877-853-5257, and you'll use meeting ID code 876-5437. 2012. Again, meeting ID code 876-5437 2012. Okay, so your next question comes from someone named Clark, and he is in Ohio. He wrote in on LinkedIn, and he says, Dr. Townsend, I've been following you for a long time. I have gone through your boundaries books, Leading with Your Gut, and numerous others. I am considering coming to one of the workshops that I see you post about occasionally. I've recently lost my wife due to cancer, and we have 4 small children. I am trying to learn how to navigate as a father of 4 small children on my own. It's been a bit of, how does he word this? He says, it's been a bit of a treacherous several months for me. What can I do to gain hope that I can parent these children on my own?
I'm so sorry, Clark. You must sort of feel like the bottom just falling out from under you. It's very difficult. When people have a situation where they've lost someone like a spouse or some fundamental critical relationship, critical in a good way, that's absolutely necessary, it's not just about the love you feel toward her and miss. It's also, you've got tremendous responsibilities of 4 kids. And so the way to solve that is that you outsource it. In other words, that means doing everything you can as a dad, but also working in this sort of thing. And you begin finding systems and people and community that can help with your kids. Things like, well, certainly the counseling aspect if they've got a loss, but also, things like church support groups with childcare, and things like community things, and things like your relatives, your sisters, nieces, things like other people that are loving in your neighborhood. And you're going to have to get your spreadsheet out, because it's going to take some, with 4 kids, it's going to take some doing, but to begin to introduce them to your kids, not as this is going to replace your mom, but they're going to take over the functions of some of the things that your wife never provided. Now, if I were in your shoes, I would probably take on more mom functions myself in terms of the love. I mean, dads love too, but what I mean is, at small children's age, the primary thing mom does is love, is nurture. And I would get some lessons on being a nurturing dad. I would take over as many of those as I could, Clark, so that the things that are task things like homework and soccer and going places and making sure that, I don't know, they're what they need to do. The tasky kind of things, I would try to farm them out to this community you're building, because the key thing is they need what's called the constant object, which is now you. And so you become the loving, steady, listening, wrestling, being there when they're scared and hurt function. You do the relational thing, take over more of that. But because that will take more of your time to do that, you farm out the task things. And I hope that helps. There's a passage that says in the Psalms, that says, God puts the lonely in homes. Your boys, and you already have a home, but there's more people outside of your family that you can recruit.
Absolutely. Okay. John, it looks like we have a caller on the line. Caller, you are live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead and tell him where you're calling from and your first name. Caller, are you with us?
Hello?
There you are.
Hello,
Okay.
is it me?
Yep, it's you. You're live with
Sorry.
Dr. Townsend. Go ahead and tell us your first name and where you're calling from.
My name is Ashley, and I'm calling from North Carolina.
Hi, Ashley.
Hey,
All right.
I've watched a lot of your...
Go ahead. I just want to know
Okay,
your
sorry.
question.
So I've watched a lot of your stuff on like boundaries with addiction and how to help, and of course I did a boundaries book study, and I'm in counseling for boundaries currently. My husband is a heroin addict, and
Sorry.
he can be pretty abusive. So now there's like a restraining order and just a lot of stuff going on. But I just like, one of the things you said was like to get down in the well with him, right? And I've tried all the different.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no, Ashley. Are you saying
right, so I didn't understand.
Hold on. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, Ashley, because people misunderstand this. Are you saying that when he's mean to me, tries to break into my house, tries to bully me, that I should get in the well with him?
Not like, I just did the best I could with the different things that I realize I didn't expect to get through. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous, but
It's okay.
you kind of get lost in it. And then it's been like 8 weeks since he's been home, and it's been 8 weeks since I've talked to him. So it's like sorting through these 7 years of just the lies that I've believed. And we were in marriage counseling. He, of course, had the marriage counselor on his side, basically saying I shouldn't poke and prod him, and then he wouldn't be triggered, and then he wouldn't be violent. I can't fix him.
That's not a good thing. That you should not blame the victim. That's very problematic, I'm sorry to say.
Right. So, I mean, that's been my experience. And, of course, my counselor is like, no, that's victim blaming. And, of
Right.
course, DSS kind of did the same thing. And it's like, I'm a good mom, and I tried to be a good wife. And I guess I just feel like I failed. And I tried to get in the well with him. I tried to support and love him. I did involuntary commits, like, and right now I'm just.
No, I get it, Ashley. My question is, talk about the conversation.
What does get in the well
Let me finish. Talk about the conversation that he wants you to have to get in the well that you're afraid it might be a bad idea. Get specific. This will help us.
No, I'm not talking to him now. I'm saying I used that as like trying to meet him where he was and love him in his illness with it seems like it just got me further sucked in because obviously I wasn't doing it right or was being manipulated along the way.
I'm getting confused. And forgive me. I want to make sure I'm answering your question. I'm not sure what you're asking. I can think of like five things you might be asking.
Get in the well with them when
what
they're
I need
struggling.
you to do, what I need you to do that will help us, Ashley, is ask me. You're in your living room, and he's wherever he is, and y'all are getting ready to talk. What is it that you think you should do and you're afraid to do? Get really specific. That'll help me help you.
I guess I'm not really looking to do anything at this point.
Oh, okay. Well, then you have a different question.
So what does it look like if he's truly wanting to be different, I guess? How would I know? Instead of the 7 years of manipulation that I've gone through.
Y'all have a marital therapist?
We did, but we don't now because there's a restraining order.
So how do you know when it's safe to go in the well because he's been so unsafe and toxic?
That's, I guess, my question.
Is that the question? Am I getting the question,
Yeah.
Ashley?
Yep, you
Okay.
are. That's it.
All right.
Oh, thank you for helping me fish that out.
Oh, you have a complicated situation. You need some objective baselines so that he knows what's required to show that authentically he's changing, repenting, transforming, he's doing the work, and that over some period of time that you would be willing to engage with him on a deeper and vulnerable level. But it can't just because he wants it or because he just says stuff because he lies. So that doesn't work. You need objective baselines. And the best way to do that is to work it out with the therapist. What I would love if it was possible is to have the two therapists have a meeting where they talk about let's call your husband Leonard. What does Leonard have to do so that Ashley, because Ashley wants to be a good wife, but she's scared and she doesn't believe anymore. What does he have to do over time consistently to show what's like 3 or 4 big things to show he's a changed man? He's not perfect, but he's a changed man. It might be once the restraining order is over, like for 6 months, he's kind to you on the phone or on Zoom, or he never yells, or he's absolutely scrupulous about the truth. These are important character matters. And the two shrinks go, these would show that Leonard is safer for Ashley to be close to. So you don't make the determination on your own by yourself. You got to get people who have training or wisdom who could say, I know the situation, and on a professional level, we would feel comfortable to try it for a while. What I always tell people is if you got somebody who's been that out of control, you say, I'll try it for 6 weeks. And if he yells, violates something, lies, guess what? Time out again, another 6 months. So go to them and say, I need baselines. And if your two therapists say we don't talk to each other because it would be some ethical thing, then go to yours and say, you're a pro. Let's do it ourselves. What do I need to see? Because I need to communicate it to him so he knows what's required. That's where I would go. Objective, objective, objective. So good luck with that, Ashley.
Thank you.
Sure. We've had so many calls today, Stacey, about horrific things going on with people, really horrible things. And if you're part of our watching or listening community or whatever, sometimes you may think, I'd like to help. I'd like to be able to do kind of things we're seeing to help people in these situations. And if that's the case, you might want to consider getting a credential or a graduate, a master's with us at the Townsend Institute. We're totally accredited. We have 3 programs. You can get a credential or master's or PhD in counseling, also a bachelor's, so womb to tomb. Or you can get a credential or master's in executive coaching and consulting if you like to coach. Or you can get a credential or master's in organizational leadership. And my point is, this is our approach. I mean, you can't lead a team meeting or build an entrepreneurial empire with all this, but it's always about the relational aspect plus the task getting it done aspects. And our students are getting great jobs. We've been around long enough now that we're getting the field research. I talked to one the other day. I was speaking Sunday, and one of our interns came up and she said, when I've gone to several internships, she's in the counseling program. She said, every internship site I go to, they say, we prefer an institute person because of their quality. So now we're getting the feedback that we need to get. So if this is hey, this is my dream, my passion, it's my 1.0 because I'm 22, or it's my 3.0 because I'm 72, give us a call. Tonight I'm doing the information session, aren't I, Stacy?
Today is the 13th. Yes, that is true.
So just go to the link that Stacy provides, and we'll see you at 5:30.
Today's the 12th. My bad. I think it's tomorrow night, John. Is that right? Or was it supposed to be tonight?
I think it is tonight. I'm sure it's tonight.
Okay.
So 5:30 my time, or our time, Pacific time, and I'll get on. I'll talk about the uniqueness and what you can do and the benefits, because it's not as much about an education, it's about an opportunity. Don't think, do I need another degree? Think, do I need an opportunity? We want to give you open doors for opportunity. And so I'll be there talking about it. And then you break into different groups between the counselors and the coaches and the business folks and our top faculty. We've got like 60 faculty. Our faculty will have small breakouts where you can ask your questions. So let us know, because we want to help. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do.
Okay, John, your next question is a write-in also on Instagram. He says his name is Tim. He says, he's calling himself Tim, a different name. He says, Dr. Townsend, I was at the workshop with you last month in California with the growth skills team. I came back with a lot of skills. I have been a growth monster, as you spoke about last week on the show, for many years now, but I am in a very low place in life. I've lost 3 family members in the past year. My college age children are acting completely unruly. It has my wife and I fighting constantly. My wife and I both have had COVID numerous times, which has put us behind with work and finances. I am feeling truly at a loss for everything that has just happened in the last year. What kind of advice do you have for someone who is just feeling such sorrow and loss and in a down place? I do have my life team and I am meeting with them, but it seems like no matter how much I talk to someone, I'm not feeling better in my mind.
Okay. Sorry to hear that, Tim. I was just writing down what you've got. You've got personal, important people losses. You've got kids who are going sideways. Your marriage is struggling, and COVID and money. I mean, you're hitting a lot of stress indicators. There's what we call in my world, Tim, the clinical line severity. That there are certain things that can be solved without therapy. Down days, dark moods, certain level of anxiety, insecurity, bad habits, because they're not severe enough that it hasn't affected the way that the brain is functioning. And so the kind of the things the church has always done for thousands of years, love, care, concern, compassion, truth, being there for people, they fix that. you're doing those. You have a life team, my book says, and you traveled to California and went to the week, and so you're doing a lot of the things, and they're not enough. And what that tells me is I have a suspicion that you have crossed a clinical line of severity, which means that's another. I look at it as that's another aspect of the church. It's like if the church is this big army, here's the combat troops, and here's the fly people, and here's the SWAT team, and not SWAT, it's police, or the Green Berets, or wherever the specialists. This is a specialized function of the body of Christ, which is people who've been trained like people like me and people I work with. And I would say, keep those other things going, but go get a really good quality Christian therapist and say, I think I got the missing piece. And that therapist may do one of two things, three things. One is they'll go, no, you don't need me. You're not clinically depressed. You don't have an anxiety disorder. I just think maybe you're not availing yourself of your relationship. And you go back and she or he will give you new tools for getting better healing and help and support for the relationships. Number two, they say, no, you're right. It's tough. And you are depressed from what I can see, if you have an anxiety disorder or there's a trauma disorder. And I think we can do something. Third thing they might say is not only that, but for short term, I have a good psychiatrist that I use, and I want that person to give you some medication, temporary medication, to get your brain chemistry set so that you can use and utilize and make use of our talk therapy. So that's what I'm hearing, Tim, and that's the way I would go. And God bless you.
That's a lot to deal with all at once.
All at once.
And that seems to be a common theme this year. It's like, the last couple of years have been really tough. And so many people are really starting to feel the ramifications of just all that has happened on, in our society the last couple of years. And then they've got the family issues and everything else, piling on top of that.
It's a lot.
100%.
But remember, good point, Stacey. Remember, for everybody in our viewing community, the rule of thumb when you go, I don't know what to do, it's all this is happening, and I might not be needing a counselor yet. Remember this. And this is what I developed. This is the model I developed when COVID hit, when I talked to all my teams. When this happens, do the two S's. The first S is bump up your support. And I don't mean people who give you advice and tell you what to do and you'll make it. I mean, people that go to the well with you and weep with those who weep, mourn with those who mourn. Bump up your support. Second S is bump up your structure. Add more structure to your life, whatever you can, because when we're in a state of loss, we need so much love and help and compassion, but we need a schedule too. Because sometimes losses will make us like stay up at 3 a.m. and watch Netflix and eat chocolates when we shouldn't. I mean, the loss of structure can hurt. So bump up the support and the structure, and in a general level, that really makes a difference.
Okay, I think you probably have time for another couple of questions. This one is Tasha from Oregon. She said, I tried calling in from my iPad, but I'm having user error issues. So she's going to type it instead.
Tasha, guess what? That means that you are owning your problem. Good. You will do well in life.
Tasha says, I have been married to my husband for 13 years. The first few years were blissful and we were very happy. After that, things started going downhill. I started to realize that he was showing signs of narcissism and gaslighting. And I do know what gaslighting is because I have been watching your show and reading what you post about.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know all this toxic stuff.
She says, recently, his mother had to move in with us due to a health concern, and we were in the middle of remodeling our home. His mother controls his life from everything from how he thinks, how he feels, to money, all aspects. It is just not a good relationship. And as I had the painters over last week to do the color, he contradicted me in front of his mother to say, if she didn't like the paint color, that we could choose something else for our home. But it's my home. I'm working full time. He is home taking care of his mother, but yet allowing his mother to control every aspect of our life. I have gone to battle with this numerous times. We've been to counseling. Nothing is working. I am miserable in my own home. How can I navigate this in a healthy way?
I'm so sorry. This is going to be very, very debilitating for you, Tasha. Let me go down. If you've watched the program, you know I go from kind of stepwise from the least severe to the most severe, because not every problem is a nuclear option. You said you've talked to him, and that's good. Number one, what I struggle with is the counseling didn't work. When I hear counseling didn't work, that can mean a number of things, Tasha. It can mean, well, we tried 1.5 sessions, it didn't work. Well, that's like saying I didn't take my doctor gave me a Z-Pack for my bacterial infection, and I took half a pill. So I'm going to describe what good counseling should be like. And I'm going to tell you what good counseling should be like. And it may be that you need to get a second or a third or a fourth right counselor. So this is a long haul. From what you're describing, if he has those tendencies and he's actually kind of kicking the dog with you, he gets it from his mother and then he takes it out on you. It sounds like to me. He hasn't done the leaving and cleaving. You need somebody weekly. You shouldn't go every other week. You get somebody that has a good reputation about working with different marriages, somebody not from the yellow pages, whatever they are, but somebody well referred, somebody that can be truthful and understand your issue and truthful understand his issue, somebody that's able to see his part and your part, somebody that you'll probably have to see him for months. It's kind of severe. It's going to be for months, maybe years. So be in for the long haul. And if you think things are falling apart and you say this isn't working, then good counseling says your therapist is doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing, and your husband says, I don't like all this truth. I don't want to change him. I want to be my mommy's little boy, and so I don't like you guys. He's gone. Well, then if that happens, he's just self-selected. And that's when you move towards, I can't live like this. Can we get your mother out? You'll probably say, no, we can't. And then what you do is, goodness. In Boundaries in Marriage, and I would refer you to that book, Tasha, we talk about this other step of if the person isn't like causing real major dysfunctions in life where you can't even raise kids or anything like that, if they're not at the level that's hard to live with, then you say, if you won't go to the right therapist with me and stick with it, I will be spending less time with you. That's a boundary. It's not you've got to leave. It's an interim boundary of it's awful for me. So me, or maybe me and the kids, we're going to be out 4 nights a week with people who are kind to us and nice to us. And you and your mom can have your little party together. And the attachment, often the person goes, well, I miss her. I mean, we drive each other crazy, but I miss her. It's just me and my nutso mom that I'm tied to her apron strings. And they begin to change. That's one. The interim step is, I will not be around because you are not a source of love for me and you're toxic for me. Let me know when you want to change. And if that doesn't work, you either go, okay, I'm doing that for the long haul. That's when you say, we need to have what's called a structured separation. Now, structured separation is not some impulsive, I'm packing my bags and getting the hell out of here. That's not structured. That's impulsive. Structure is when you say, it's not working. And so I'm still married to you, but it's destroying my life and bad for the kids. So I'm separating until, and what it means is I'm separating and I want a plan. And then you work it out with the therapist of what will it take, like we were talking about earlier about, I think it was Ariel, right? No, it was Betty. Where if you decide to like have limits with your mom and be nice to me and all this and put me first, great. But the plan is the plan. And so if you don't have to agree with the plan, Jim, but it's just that I need to let you know I'm not leaving. And the structure is, I hope you're working on your growth and me on mine, but it's not safe for me to do that. That's the path I would advise you to go on. And good luck.
Okay. Another hard situation for sure. Okay.
They're all really, really, really hard, but that doesn't mean there aren't answers. It means the answers require more work.
Absolutely.
The answers are the answers. God always has answers. Some just mean I've got to have less, free time, leisure time, fun time, and I've got to enter in conflict, get more support. I got to work harder on it. It's like, well, if this is a medical, physical medical show, somebody said I got a sniffle, I'd say X. If they say, well, I've got stage 4 cancer, I'd say this. One just takes a lot more time and priority.
Very true. Okay, caller, welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live Show. You are live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead and tell us your first name and where you're calling from. Caller, are you with us? Well, and maybe they're having technical difficulties also. Caller ending in 826 number. You are live on the Dr. Townsend Show. Are you with us? Okay, I guess they will try you back, and I will move on to your next question. Your next question comes from Patrick, and he said, I would like to call in, but I'm at work, so I'm writing instead, and he's also over on LinkedIn. Patrick says, I need someone to be real with me about addiction and the course that I can take. The short story of this is that my wife was addicted to several different drugs. Cocaine was her drug of choice in high school and in college. And it was hard for me to fathom that someone could be addicted to cocaine in high school. But we met in our 40s, and we've had a wonderful marriage for the last 10 years. But recently she went on a girls' trip. Someone had it out and she relapsed. I have read until my eyes are straining, and I am just trying to get some real answers about what are the real possibilities of her being able to recover again. The relapse has caused her to go back into using on a regular basis. I'm being manipulated, lied to. I cannot trust her. Money is disappearing, staying out later, being gone from home a lot, getting babysitters for the kids more and more. It's just so many signs. So I just really need someone to be real with me right now about the chances of recovery for this.
Sorry to hear that, Patrick. Sounds like a nightmare. I'm going to make some assumptions that you've asked her stop being out of control. She's completely out of control. So we won't have to cover that. Number one is to say I have to get counseling. And depending on what she does about that, I like to kind of go to the bad sort of choices so you can have a plan. I don't want you to get off the phone with me and say, oh, you just told me to get counseling. So what? She said no. She says, no, you're crazy and I like this. And then you say, okay, you pull the leverage that you've got, Patrick. I don't know. Here's the leverage that marriage has is you're going to lose me and I'm going to ask you to move out and I'm giving you 30 days. Actually, in her case, she sounds more severe, like maybe, 3 or 4 days. I'm going to ask you to move out. And I'd like for you to go inpatient, but you've got to see a specialist about that because we don't always know if the person needs inpatient. I kind of think she does, but I think she needs to see somebody for an intake first. I would just make it simple. All the things you're doing and you're saying you're not doing, I'm sure you are. So I need you to move out and I wouldn't want to get help. And I will help you get help once you're ready for it. This is not the kind of he says that she says she can kick it on her own. Oh, it kind of matters and it kind of doesn't matter. It matters because she's saying, I know I have a problem. See, people in total now will say, there's nothing to kick. But she's saying I can kick it, meaning there's some reality coming in. And I would say, I totally disagree. Not only are you using, but your behavior's out of control, you're lying, you're stealing money. So no, I'm happy for that, but I have to keep the stance that I can't live with you. I would just say you can't be with me until you decide to get serious about it and get help. And I would get a lot of support around me. And there's going to be a lot of blaming you for everything. But when somebody's got that level of an addiction that's affecting her life functioning in so many areas, I would not mess around with it. So sorry about that, but that's exactly what I would do.
Very difficult. So many.
The other thing about that, Stacey, for Patrick, the other thing about it for Patrick's benefit is they say this: how do you know when an addict's lying? You know the answer to that one, Stacey?
What is it?
When their lips are moving.
Wow.
So she's saying all these things, she's under the influence. And so when you go, well, she says she can kick it, you're talking to a crazy person whose brain is fried. So it's sort of like a 3-year-old that says, you know, I'll be good forever after they bonk their sister on the head 14 times. You go with the behavior when they're crazy and not thinking right, and you solve the problem of the behavior out of control, and don't listen to I would say it this way. You know, this is for you, Patrick. Cindy, I love you. And I'm going to leave until you decide to get help. Or you're going to leave. This is not a conversation. And she's going, I do it on my own. I know what I'm doing. And you're saying, this is not a mutual two-way conversation. This is not a negotiation. It's what's called an announcement. It's an announcement. An announcement is, how do we work this out together? Her brain isn't working. She's in jeopardy and she's lying. You don't have negotiations and mutual back and forth. I just want to let you know, here's the deal. I've made a decision announcement. Announcement is not a bad thing. It's just saying we're not going into a dialogue here. I want to let you know. Think about announcement.
Right. Just basically, you just don't believe anything.
And you offer them help, but you don't go, well, you made a good point here. Those days are over until the coke's out of her head.
Wow. Painful situations today with all of the callers. And if you did try to call in and you were unable, I noticed a couple of you were still trying to get in here at the end. Please come back with us, not next week, but the week after that, we'll be back. And you'll see notifications on all of John's medias about the show, as well as you can find the information on his website at drtownsend.com.
Been good. Remember, guys, life is hard, but God is good and God has answers. So I hope his best for you in your